Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This week we have a special Haftorah portion from the book of Isaiah. So I want to talk for a moment about Isaiah more broadly. We now know that the book of Isaiah had several authors. We can tell this because of the history that each one writes about. It appears that the earlier Isaiah is writing about 100 years before the writing of the person who's known as Deutero or Second Isaiah. I think that in Judaism, we are called to live a balancing act between the messages of the earlier Isaiah author and the writings of the later Isaiah author. So early Isaiah tells us that God expects us to behave in certain ways. It is part of our covenant with God. What does Isaiah teach us? First, that we need to worship only God and not the idols of our time, and not our own narcissistic tendencies either. And secondly, Isaiah says that we need to create a more ethical world. Specifically, we are taught in Isaiah, learn to do good, devote yourself to justice, aid the wronged, uphold the rights of the orphan, defend the cause of the widow. So first Isaiah reminds us that God cares about this world and that our covenant with God calls each of us and us as a people to reach out and care about others. First Isaiah is demanding, insistent, and strident, trying to get our attention. And then by chapter 38 or 40 of Isaiah, we get a very different tone. This writer is writing after the destruction of the first temple. And Deutero Isaiah tries to comfort us. He says, comfort the people. And in his mind, God says, speak tenderly to Jerusalem. So we're taught between these two, on one hand, that God has high expectations for us, and we need to be active in this world, making it a better place. And at the same time, we're taught that when we do make mistakes, God is still there for us, to comfort us, to support us as we try to do what's right. Shabbat Shalom.
Rabbi Steele, thank you for that. And yes, we are in the period, and we're going to be hearing from Isaiah for the next 7 weeks, and actually then beyond. But for this, what's known as the Sheva Denechmata, the 7 Haftarot of consolation that we read after Tisha B'Av, which is a time of destruction for the Jewish people, and it is that balance, Rabbi Steele. In this case, I just want to offer a poem that strikes for me a balance between, for us, coming out of a period of great fragility over this past year and a half of the pandemic, and we are not out of the woods yet, but we balance fragility in life with our resilience, and nobody does it better than Emily Dickinson in her poem, Hope is a Thing with Feathers. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
And in the spirit of Isaiah and consolation, just wanted to share the words of Nachamu Ami from Shlomo Carlebach. Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Yomar Elohechem. Dabru Alev Yerushalayim, V'kiru Aleha, Dabru alev Yerushalayim vehikiru aleha. Nachamu, nachamu ami, Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu, nachamu ami, Yomar Elohechem. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, and indeed, Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami. Be comforted, comforted, my people, our people.